Assalamu alaikum. Today I want to talk briefly about the anatomy of the urinary system. Anatomically, the urinary system is closely associated with the reproductive system. So, urinary and reproductive system are often collectively called urogenital system. And the urinary system consists of 6 organs: 2 kidney, 2 ureter, a urinary bladder, and finally the urethra. The urinary system have many functions. One of them is filtration of blood, and second, secrete the enzyme which called renin, and third, regulate the blood volume and pressure, and fourth, regulated the osmolality of the body fluids, and fifth, secrete hormone like erythropoietin, which control the red blood production in the bone marrow and contributed the calcium homeostasis. Finally, detoxified free radicals and drug. The gross anatomy of the kidney. The kidneys lies against the posterior abdominal wall at the level of the vertebrae thoracic number 12 and 3 lumbar vertebrae. As you see here that the right kidney is slightly lower than the left because of the space occupied by the liver above. Here is the right lobe of the liver. So the right kidney is slightly lower than the left. The kidneys would weight about 160 grams and long 12 centimeter and wide 5 centimeter, while the thick nearly 2 and 5 centimeter. You see here that the adrenal gland rests on the superior pole of the kidney. This is the superior pole of the kidney, and this is the inferior pole of the kidney. This is the concave outer curvature, and this is the inner concave curvature. This is convex, sorry, and this is concave. The kidney is protected by 3 layers of connective tissue. From the outside, this is the fibrous renal fascia. This is associated with the abdominal organs wall. And the second is the adipose tissue. And this is which close to the kidney, which also composed of fibrinous tissue, is renal capsule. So this protective layers protect the kidney from infection transmission. What are the anatomical structure of the kidney parenchyma? The kidney have 2 layers. One of them is the outer, which called renal cortex, and the inner called the medulla. And the medulla have 6 to 10 renal pyramid separated by renal column. And the pyramid has both base and plant point. This is plant point of the pyramid. This is face the pelvis, and this is face the cortex. And this top end we call it renal papillae. We call it renal papillae, which face the sinus pelvis. And also we see here that this papillae opened into minor calyx and major calyx. The main functional unit of the kidney is the nephron, and each kidney contain about 1,200,000 unit of nephrons, and nephrons consist of two principal parts. This is what we call it renal corpuscle. This is 75 to 80% of this corpuscle located in the cortex. So the cortex is looked darker than the medulla. And renal tubule. And renal tubulus for transport urine after filtration. Now we return back to the corpuscle. The renal corpuscle composed of two parts. This is the glomeruli, tuft of blood capillary, the efferent and efferent capillary, and Bowman capsule. And Bowman capsule. Bowman capsule have two part of cells. One of them, the outer, is squamous epithelia, and the viscera, which is contact with the glomeruli, is visceral layer and consists of podocyte cell. Now, the renal tubule. As we say, this is the renal corpuscles, and this is from here start the tubule. The first is the proximal tubule, and have convoluted part and straight part. And this type of renal tube, the proximal, have simple cuboidal epithelial, contain microvilli, look like push border. And then straight and make U-shaped nephron. We call it loop of Henle. And then the straight part of the distal tubule and the convoluted part of the distal tubule, and finally the collecting duct. The blood supply of the kidney. The kidney receive blood, which about 21% of the cardiac output, and each kidney supplied by renal artery. This is the renal artery which rises from the abdominal aorta. This is rises from the abdominal aorta. This is the renal artery, and here enter the kidney from this fossa. We call it the hilum, and give a branch to each loop. This is called intraluper artery, and then it arcuates and give what call it intralupular. This is intraluper, and this is intralupular, and then it enter renal corpuscle, and here we call it the efferent arteriole, and then it leave the corpuscle by the efferent arteriole. This is the blood supply, and then retained back by the venous system. Retained back by the venous system. From the renal vein to the inferior vena cava. Now, the second part of the urinary system, or the second organ, is the ureter. This is the ureter. Each kidney have one ureter, and this ureter is a muscular tube that extends from the kidney to the urinary bladder, nearly 25 centimeter long and 1.7 centimeter diameter, and it reached the urinary bladder. The histological layer of this ureter have three main layers. This is the lumen. The first one is the adventitia. This is the adventitia. And then the muscularis. This is layer of muscularis. Two layers of smooth muscle. And then the mucosa. The mucosa is transitional epithelia. And also the mucosa contain lamina propria. Contain lamina propria. Now we reach the urinary bladder. This is a muscular sac. This is urinary bladder is a muscular sac located in the floor of the pelvis. This is the pelvis bone and pelvis cavity. This is the urinary bladder. This is here we have the pubic symphysis, and this is the coxa, and this is the sacrum. This is the pelvis, and the epithelia of the urinary bladder is transitional epithelia. And when it was filled with urine and stretched, it appeared one layer, but when it was empty, it take a wrinkled shape called rugae, and have a muscular layer called distrosor muscle. And here we have the three openings of the ureters. This is two openings for the ureter and one for the urethra. This area or this region, we call it the trigone, where the ureters and the urethra opened in the urinary bladder. Finally, we have the urethra, and also we see here that the urethra, which conveys urine out of the body, and in male it's longer than female, it's equal to 18 centimeter long, and have three regions. The first one is a prostatic region. This is a prostatic region. Here we find the prostatic gland, and then the membranous urethra, and finally the spongy urethra. And this move through the penis, also called penile urethra. And you see here the histological layer of the urethra. This is the lumen, and this is the transitional epithelia. And then we have the very high vasculated area, which is the spongy urethra, and it contains urethral gland. Till here, we finished the anatomy of the urinary system. Thank you.